General Hospital spoilers for Monday, April 14 reveal that Josslyn has completed her WSB training, an incredible achievement for such a young and ambitious individual. Throughout the challenging training process, Josslyn proved herself to be an outstanding trainee, overcoming every obstacle from grueling physical tests to complex intellectual tasks. From intense weapons training to exercises on surveillance and tracking skills, she demonstrated an admirable ability to adapt and learn. Brennan, who personally supervised her training, couldn't help but be impressed by Josslyn's rapid progress, though he still harbored doubts about her true motivations. However, the new story reveals that Josslyn will return to Port Charles sooner than expected, an abrupt decision that even Brennan couldn't have foreseen. This early return wasn't because she had excelled in her training but because of a special mission that WSB wanted her to carry out, one directly related to her own family and friends. Brennan provided Josslyn with classified information about a potential threat to Port Charles, and she was tasked with infiltrating the community to gather intelligence from within. In a private meeting with Brennan and other high-ranking WSB officials, Josslyn was briefed on the current situation in Port Charles. According to the latest intelligence, a secret organization was operating in town, with the goal of not only controlling illegal business activities but also infiltrating local government. What made WSB particularly concerned was that there were signs that this organization had connections to the Corinthos and Morgan families, people with whom Josslyn had close personal ties. This is proving to be one of the new crises as Josslyn faces the most difficult situation of her life, having to lie and manipulate the very people she loves. She knows that if Carly, Jason, or anyone in her family discovers the truth about her work with the WSB, they will not only feel betrayed but might also try to stop her at all costs. And if WSB finds out that Josslyn is leaking information to her family, she could face severe consequences. Josslyn spent many sleepless nights contemplating her decision. On one hand, she felt loyal to the WSB and the mission of justice the organization represented. On the other hand, she couldn't help but feel guilty about deceiving her family and friends. Especially after learning of the threat against them, she was more determined than ever to warn them. But Brennan was very clear, any information leak could sabotage the operation and put many lives at risk. As the day of her return approached, Josslyn began to prepare for her new role. She was given a new identity, still Josslyn Jacks, but with a cover story of having traveled and studied abroad. She was also equipped with sophisticated surveillance devices disguised as everyday jewelry, an audio recording bracelet, a ring with a hidden camera, and a smartwatch capable of transmitting data directly to the WSB. As Josslyn prepared to return to Port Charles with her secrets and new mission, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into a dangerous maze with no easy way out. She knew that every interaction with her loved ones would be a test of loyalty and ethics. She would have to balance her WSB duties with the desire to protect her family. And as she began her mission, the waves of turbulence and upheaval would quickly spread throughout the town, potentially leading to one of the greatest disasters Port Charles had ever witnessed. What Josslyn didn't know was that Brennan was hiding an important truth from her. The real threat wasn't coming from the outside but from within the WSB itself. And Josslyn, with all her training and preparation, was unknowingly becoming a pawn in a much larger power game than she could ever imagine. When Josslyn set foot in Port Charles on a chilly fall morning, she couldn't help but feel a mixture of anxiety and excitement. This was the place she had grown up, where she had her happiest memories, but now she was returning with a secret that could threaten the very foundation of the relationships she cherished most. Her first meeting with Carly, her mother, was emotional. Carly hugged her tightly, tears welling up as she saw Josslyn after such a long separation. Josslyn returned the embrace, a wave of guilt rising as she thought about the lies she would have to tell in the coming days. In the early days of her return, Josslyn noticed many changes in Port Charles. There were new faces in town, new tensions between families, and an overall different atmosphere. She began gathering information, taking notes on everything that could relate to her mission. She reunited with Jason, who had always been a reliable protector and mentor. She noticed that Jason seemed to have his own concerns, and she wondered if he suspected something about the WSB. As Josslyn continued her mission, she began uncovering complex connections between members of the Port Charles community. She noticed secret meetings, discreet exchanges, and suspicious behaviors from people she had once trusted. Each new piece of information made the bigger picture clearer, but it also made her mission more dangerous. What worried Josslyn the most was the realization that her own family and friends might be involved in activities that the WSB was investigating. She wondered if, knowing this, she would have the courage to report them. And if she didn't, could she live with that decision? Meanwhile, Brennan had begun receiving reports from Josslyn and was preparing for the next phase of his plan. He had taken the information Josslyn provided and started building a case against some of the most powerful figures in Port Charles. But what he didn't know was that Jason had started to suspect something about Josslyn's sudden return and the changes in her behavior. With instincts honed over years in the underground world, Jason had begun following Josslyn from afar, noting her meetings, the places she went, and the people she spoke to. Gradually, he began to form a theory about what was really going on. As Josslyn continued her mission, she began noticing signs of danger. There were moments when she felt like she was being watched, mysterious calls to her phone, and warnings from Brennan to be extra cautious. She wondered if she was walking into a trap, and if so, who had set it. As events began to accelerate, Josslyn realized she was being drawn into a complex web of lies, betrayal, and danger. And as the truth started to come to light, she would face a difficult choice: continue her mission with the WSB or stand with her family and friends? No matter which path she chose, disaster seemed inevitable, and the consequences would echo throughout Port Charles for years to come. Jason had started noticing Brennan's dangerous actions unfolding, with each passing day revealing new signs of a conspiracy taking shape in the shadows. With instincts sharpened over years in the underground world, Jason had begun noticing suspicious patterns in Brennan's behavior, from secret meetings with WSB members to seemingly coincidental appearances at strategic locations in Port Charles. Not stopping at just tracking Brennan, Jason also paid close attention to Josslyn's behavior since her return from her mysterious trip. One of the emerging threats was the growing obsession with this new development, proving that Jason had begun to realize that Brennan was using Josslyn as a pawn in a much larger plan. Jason noticed how Josslyn frequently checked her phone, how she seemed tense when her family was around, and especially her clumsy lies about where she had been and what she had done. What concerned Jason most was that Josslyn seemed to be gathering information on the Corinthos and Morgan family activities, information that could be dangerous if it fell into the wrong hands. Jason had begun following Josslyn from a distance, careful not to be detected, and what he saw confirmed his worst fears: Josslyn was working for the WSB, under Brennan's direct command. This discovery put Jason in a difficult position. On one hand, he wanted to protect Josslyn from whatever danger she might be putting herself in. On the other hand, he wanted to understand Brennan's true plan before intervening. One of the new adjustments was Jason getting a shock when he discovered that Brennan wasn't just targeting Sonny's business activities, but had a grander plan to control all of Port Charles. Through a reliable source in the WSB, Jason learned that Brennan was building a dossier not only on Sonny but also on everyone with influence in town, from local politicians to successful businesspeople. His ultimate goal seemed to be to create his own power network, using the WSB as a tool to achieve his personal ambitions. This was proving to be a new level of madness in Brennan's plan. He wasn't just using Josslyn as an information-gathering tool, but was also exploiting his relationship with Carly to get closer to the center of power in Port Charles. Jason had noticed how Brennan was gradually infiltrating Carly's life, from romantic dinners to intimate conversations about business matters. Every interaction seemed carefully calculated to extract the information and influence Brennan needed for his plan. Jason knew he had to act quickly, but also cautiously. He began gathering evidence of Brennan's activities while trying to privately approach Josslyn to better understand the situation. He also reached out to trusted allies, including Spinelli, who could help him hack into the WSB's computer systems to gather more information about Brennan's true plan. But time was running out. According to the latest intel Jason received, Brennan was preparing for the final phase of his plan, a phase that could involve eliminating anyone standing in his way, including Sonny and Jason. What made the situation even more dangerous was that Josslyn could unknowingly become part of this plan, putting her in greater danger than ever before. As Jason continued his investigation and planned his counterattack, he knew that every decision could have far-reaching consequences. Not just for him but for everyone he cared about. The battle against Brennan would not be one of raw strength, but one of intellect and strategy. Natalia's confession that she is Sidwell's ex-wife is truly becoming one of the new obsessions in Sonny Corinthos's mind. The moment the truth is revealed, every past interaction between them is seen in a completely new light, making Sonny question whether every intimate moment they shared was truly genuine or just part of a larger plan. Sonny has begun to reevaluate every conversation, every touch, every promise, searching for signs of deception and manipulation he might have overlooked. One of the new crazinesses is proving to be a new disaster as Sonny discovers that not only is Natalia Sidwell's ex-wife, but she may also be working with him. The signs have always been there. The secret calls Natalia made when she thought Sonny wasn't paying attention, the times she unexpectedly showed up at places where Sonny had business plans, and particularly her suspicious interest in his activities. Each new piece of the puzzle paints a troubling picture. Natalia could have been sent by Sidwell to monitor and manipulate Sonny from the inside. This is proving to be one of the new complications Sonny faces, not only dealing with Sidwell, a dangerous opponent in his own right, but also having to watch out for Natalia, who has successfully infiltrated his personal and emotional space. This threat is not only against Sonny's business empire but also against the safety of his family and loved ones. Sonny knows that Natalia has interacted with his children, been inside his home, and gained the trust of many in his inner circle, all of which creates a new level of danger he has never faced before. One of the new crazy revelations is that Sidwell may have planned all of this months or even years in advance. Every step Natalia took may have been carefully calculated, every chance encounter could have been staged, and every confiding moment might have been designed to gather information. Sonny, with all his experience and caution, has fallen into a trap of a plan he couldn't see until it was too late. And now, Sonny is ready to retaliate, with a plan not just to protect himself and his family, but to strike back at Sidwell and Natalia with a force they could never imagine. Sonny has begun gathering information about Natalia and Sidwell's past, searching for weaknesses, secrets, and connections that could be used against them. He has deployed trusted members of his organization to monitor every activity of Natalia and Sidwell, recording each meeting, every exchange, and every transaction. At the same time, Sonny maintains a normal front with Natalia, allowing her to believe that her plan is still going smoothly. He continues the dates, shares stories, and even extends invitations for her to get involved in aspects of his family life. Every interaction is an opportunity for Sonny to collect more information while making Natalia and Sidwell feel more secure in their plot. As Sonny's counterattack plan begins to take shape, he knows this will be one of the most dangerous challenges he's ever faced. Not just because Sidwell is a dangerous opponent with many resources, but also because Natalia has succeeded in infiltrating his life to a degree few enemies ever have. But Sonny also knows he has an advantage. His enemies have underestimated him, thinking they could exploit his feelings and outmaneuver him. And that will be their final mistake. As Sonny continues to work in the shadows, preparing for the upcoming confrontation, he knows the price of failure will be high. But he also knows that the price of letting Sidwell and Natalia continue their plan will be even higher. And so, with the determination and focus that only Sonny Corinthos can possess, he prepares for a battle that will not only shape his future but the future of all of Port Charles. Trina is trying to amend Kai's mistake in accepting Drew's offer, a task filled with challenges and danger as she becomes aware of Drew Kane's influence and power. From the moment Kai informed her about Drew's offer to fund his gender reassignment surgery, Trina felt something was off. Her strong intuition warned her that there's no such thing as a free lunch, especially when the funding came from a man with a suspicious history who was becoming increasingly influenced by Ezra. One of the new changes is that Trina has shifted from trying to convince Kai to reject the offer to supporting him while quietly investigating Drew's true motives. She has started collecting information about Drew's recent activities, especially his relationship with Ezra and his new business ventures in Aurora Media. Trina discovered that Drew seems to be looking to expand his influence in the medical field, with multiple investments in pharmaceutical research and medical technology. She wonders if funding Kai's surgery is connected to this strategy. One of the evolving stories is that Kai and Trina have now set their sights on Drew. They both realize that to protect themselves and others from any schemes Drew might be orchestrating, they need to take a more proactive approach. Instead of just trying to avoid Drew, Kai and Trina have decided to approach the situation differently. Kai will continue to accept the funding and work closely with Drew, while Trina will use her relationship with Portia, her mother and a respected doctor at the hospital, to gather information from the inside. Their plan has begun to yield results when Kai discovered that Drew isn't just interested in funding his surgery but is also requesting access to the hospital's medical record system as part of the deal. This is a suspicious request that Kai has carefully hidden in his conversations with Drew while reporting back to Trina. Meanwhile, Trina learned through Portia that Drew is funding a secret study on an experimental drug, a study that seems to be conducted without proper regulatory oversight. As they continue investigating, Kai and Trina have started connecting the dots and forming a disturbing picture. Drew may be using his position and influence to access and control sensitive medical data, possibly for some illegal purposes. The funding for Kai's surgery might just be a way to get an ally inside the hospital, someone who could unknowingly help Drew execute his plan. With this realization, Kai and Trina have adjusted their strategy once again. They're not just gathering information anymore, they're also starting to create concrete evidence of Drew's suspicious activities. Kai has started recording his conversations with Drew, while Trina has reached out to Spencer, who has connections with the Quartermain family, to get more information on Drew's business dealings. As they dig deeper, Kai and Trina increasingly realize they are facing a much more dangerous enemy than they originally thought. Drew is not just an ambitious businessman, he's someone who might be willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. And with Ezra's support, his power is only growing. However, Kai and Trina are no longer easy prey. With their intelligence, determination, and mutual support, they've become a formidable adversary that Drew may have underestimated. And as they continue building a case against him, the question is no longer whether Drew can be exposed, but when and how. In this confrontation, Kai and Trina are not only protecting themselves but also the entire Port Charles community from whatever schemes Drew might be plotting. And in the process, a friendship has turned into a powerful alliance, an alliance that could change the power balance in this town forever.